the 14th chapter. We'll start with Mangalancharan prayers, and we can start. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapesthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Miti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatadeshatarine. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishnapesthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine. Vanchakalpadrubhyascha कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this chapter we have seen in chapter 13 that Lord's Varaha's incarnation was described. So this chapter title is Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. So here I will start with, so I will first give the outline of the chapter. This chapter has 51 verses. Verses 1 to 7 is Vidura's inquiries. He wanted to know the war between the Lord and Hiranyakashipu. 8 to 16 verses describes Diti expresses her desire to beget the son, and 17 to 22 Kashyapa Muni pacifies Diti. And then later on from 23 to 29 he warns Diti about the specific time, that the inauspiciousness of the time and the glories of the Lord Shiva. And in 30 to 32 he falls prey, and he later on he purifies himself by taking the bath. And verse 33 to 37 Diti laments and is ashamed of her desire, and she prays to Lord Shiva for the mercy. And verse 38 to 41 is the prophecy by Kashyapa Muni that the sons will be demons, and later on they will be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then and in the couple of verses Diti is she is satisfied that the sons will be killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and seeing the repentation and the full faith in the personality of the Godhead, Kashyapa Muni gives the benediction of that the devotee, the grandson of will be the devotee of the Lord, and the glories of the Prahlad Maharaj are described in this chapter. And the last verse, she is satisfied again by because hearing that the sons will be killed by the Lord, and the grandson will be a devotee of the Lord. So with that, so this is the brief outline of the chapter. So we can go with the presentation that I have. So hope everyone is able to see the presentation. Otherwise, we can follow through the verses. So here verses 14.1 to 14.4, Vidura expresses his inquires about the fighting between the Lord and the Hiranyakashipu. Vidura is not satisfied after hearing the glories of the incarnations of Lord Varaha from the previous chapter. He begs with the folded hands to describe, to hear more transcendental activities of the Lord from Maitreya Muni. And he asks specifically that he says that he has heard from the disciplic succession that the Hiranyakashipu demon is slain by Lord, Supreme Personality of the Lord. And here in the verse 2, Prabhupada mentions that there are two incarnations of Lord Varaha in 2 millenniums. One is in Swayambhu Manu and other is in Chakshusha Manu. In Swayambhu Manu, the Lord lifts the earth from the water, and in the second millennium, the Chakshusha millennium, he kills the first demon Hiranyaksha, sorry. Yeah, I think I might have been saying Hiranyakashipu, but it's Hiranyaksha, sorry. So in the Swayambhu millennium, he assumes the color of white, and in the Chakshusha Manu he assumes the color of red. And here we had a question about saying that whether in this chapter is it describing the Lord, the Hiranyaksha demon in the Chakshusha Manu, or is in the Swayambhu Manu? So we had a question, so we can clarify that during the question answer session. And Vidura asks, he wanted to know the reason why the Lord kills the demon. So he is actually, this is the pastime of the fighting pastime between the Varaha incarnation and the Hiranyaksha. But these war activities are non-mundane, and because these are the activities of the Lord, these are all transcendental activities of the Lord, and Vidura wants to know these transcendental activities. He is not interested in the mundane activities of the war. So here in the fourth verse, Prabhupada mentions that one needs to be actually faithful and inquisitive to hear the glories of the Lord. So he says Vidura was a suitable candidate to receive such a transcendental messages, because he was very inquisitive and he was faithful, and he has a desire and his to hear more about the transcendental activities of the Lord. So going to the next slide with text 5. So I'm still okay. So here we go. So here Maitreya starts speaking. He says that the questions or the inquiries posed presented by the Vidura are befitting a devotee, and again here Vidura is addressed as a warrior. He is not, as I mentioned earlier, he is not interested in the mundane activities, but the activities of the Lord. it concerns the activities of the Lord. And hearing these war topics, especially about the Lord, relieves one from the chains of birth and death. And Maitreya Muni says that these war topics is as good as any other devotional service. So so it is it is not any mundane. People might think that the war topics, why the war topics are discussed by by the devotees. So here Prabhupada also mentions that foolish people are actually suspicious about Krishna's taking part in the Kurukshetra war. But they don't know that it is ultimately their benefit, because they actually attain the supreme abode. So here again the Maitreya gives the example of Dhruva Maharaj, how he was enlightened from hearing the topics of Lord from Narada, and how he reached the Lord's abode at a very young age, after ruling the earth for many years. Actually, after ruling his father's kingdom. So that, and Maitreya also mentions here that he heard this pastime from Lord Brahma. Going to the next slide, from verse 8. So here now Maitreya Muni takes us back in time, where before the before the Hiranyaksha was born. So here he mentions that Diti was begs to Kashyapa Muni to beget a child, and she is actually afflicted by the sexual desire. And Kashyapa Muni was sitting in trance. He was doing his evening oblations, and the timing was somewhere between in the between the dusk and the in the night. So she says that actually in the verse 9 it is mentioned that so he was Kashyapa Muni was offering oblations, and here it mentions in the purport that the Vishnu's tongue is actually the sacrificial fire. So all the oblations and the grains and the clarified butter offered to the fire are directly reaching to the are directly accepted by Lord. So this is the principle of all the sacrifices, of which Lord Vishnu is the master. So if you satisfy the Lord Vishnu, then we can satisfy all the demigods as well and the other living beings. And Diti mentions in text 10 that she is afflicted by the sexual desire, and her desire is like mad elephants troubling the banana tree. And here Prabhupada mentions that this desire of her is not natural, especially when the husband is in trance and is offering sacrifice to the Lord. So, but here also Prabhupada mentions that it is the prime duty of the husband to give her all protection by fulfilling her desires. And he says later on, so we go to take the next slide. So Diti gives reason why she's, why she wants the child. She is actually, her desire is not just for the sensual pleasure, but her desire is to beget the sons. She says that all her co-wives are opulent with with their progeny, but she does not have any sons. So that's the reason why um, she wants to have the the son. And later on, Diti mentions that here yeah, later on here Diti mentions that husband like you will become famous for having a children, because you are meant for expansion of the living entities. Here Prabhupada mentions that one should not become a father or a mother if one cannot deliver the child from this material existence. So being Kashyapa Muni, who is a learned scholar, and he is well aware of the reasons of begetting a child. So so Diti says that you will become famous, and that by begetting the son. So, and later she also says that the Daksha, so there is some background noise, I think. Okay, I think that is, yeah, now better. So here she also says that Daksha has given them the choice to choose their husband. So Prabhupada here mentions that even in the earlier days, daughters were given the free choice of choosing their husband, but not not freedom for free association. But the ultimate selection of the husband still dependent on the father. We'll go to the next slide. Again, continuing with Diti's desire. So after knowing the intentions of the daughters, he handed over 13 of his daughters to Kashyapa Muni. So every one of his Diti's sisters had a son or had children. And she was equally faithful to the husband, and she has had no son. So she wanted to have the son. So she again asked Kashyapa Muni to fulfill her desire, and says when someone in distress approaches a great person, his plea should never go in vain. So thus, so after hearing the Diti's desire of begetting the son, Maitreya Muni, the Kashyapa Muni tries to pacify her, and that's here. Prabhupada mentions that Kashyapa Muni was engaged in spiritual activities, but he had no sufficient strength to refuse his wife. Whereas Vidura is addressed as a hero here because he was a devotee of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord can control his senses. And we can later on, I will mention that we'll see that the Kashyapa Muni has was mentioned as he was not a devotee of the Lord, but a impersonalist. So So here, Prabhupada says that he was not very strong to dissuade Diti, but he offered, nonetheless, he offered the pacifying words to Diti. So, and here from the next verse, we'll go to slide next slide with verse 17. Here he says, "O afflicted one, I shall forthwith gratify whatever desire is dear to you. For who else but you is the source of three perfections of liberation?" So here he starts actually glorifying Diti, or the position of the Diti, especially the wife of an husband. So he says that the three perfections of liberations, Prabhupada mentions that the three perfections of liberations are religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification. A faithful wife should fulfill all the material desires of the husband. So the husband is satisfied in all the material needs, and then he can focus in spiritual advancement. So here Prabhupada mentions that wife shares the spiritual benefits of the husband. Since wife, so the whole aspect of the wife being the better half is to especially satisfy the needs of an husband, and so that husband can concentrate on the spiritual advancement, and at the same time with the advancement of husband in spiritual life, the wife will also advance. Here Prabhupada says that the conditional material existence is based on the sense gratification, and if someone has a good has a good fortune to get a wife in all respects, then he would spiritually he could satisfy his material desires, and then eventually be able to concentrate on spiritual life. Prabhupada also mentions here that therefore it is very important for boys to get trained in brahmacharya, and daughters to get trained in chastity. So being a faithful wife and a good training of brahmachari, the association the association of both a faithful wife and the good training of brahmachari is better for advancement for the human mission. So again, going to next slide, 18. Here Kashyapa Muni says that one can cross over the ocean with sea-going vessels. One can cross the dangerous situation of the material ocean by living with a wife. Here Prabhupada mentions the four social orders four social orders for cooperation to get away from or get liberated from this material existence. Here he says that the grahastha ashram is actually is the sustenance for all other three ashramas: brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. It is said that all these ashramas except the grahastha ashrama is for spiritual advancement, whereas in grahastha ashrama has little bit leeway for sense gratification, but he can and these all other ashramas beg alms from the grahastha, and so that's so in that way grahastha ashrama can also advance in spiritual life by helping all other ashramas. Going to text 19. so here Kashyapa Muni says that wife is so helpful and is also called the better half of a husband, because she shares all the auspicious activities, and a man can give all the responsibilities to his wife without any anxiety. So here Prabhupada mentions that the family man has the responsibility of performing the Panchayagna sacrifice, which relieves from all kinds of unavoidable sinful reactions while doing his material activities. So here Prabhupada mentions that one, if a man becomes qualitative like cats and dogs, he forgets his duties in cultivating spiritual values, and thus he accepts a wife as a sense gratificatory agency. So here Prabhupada specially mentions that if one accepts the wife just for a sense gratification, so it is no better than the life of cats and dogs. Because of this, accepting the wife just for pure sense gratification, the emphasis is given on the personal beauty, and when this beauty vanishes, or if there is the dissatisfaction, and then we see all kinds of divorces happening. So he says that there is, in material world, there is no question of love, if everything is based on sense gratification. So, but the institution of marriage, Prabhupada mentions, is not actually for the sense gratification, but is according to the, if you follow according to scriptures, it is for spiritual advancement eventually. So one should not treat marriage as just a sanction for having sense gratification. So next, going to text 20. Here again Kashyapa Muni mentions that one can, so in the material world there are a lot of, the Maya is attacking from all the directions, and of all the sexual desire is the foremost, and to conquer that, he says that if we can take a shelter of wife, then we can conquer this sense, and the sexual desire. So here Prabhupada also says that because of taking shelter of wife for satisfying our sensual pleasures, one is on the safe side. So the householder life is safe to be on the safe side. If he does not take the shelter of the wife, then he might be a nuisance to a society by corrupting other women. So Prabhupada says that the householder is on the safe side, and the sex life is prohibited in other ashramas, and grihastha should engage in sex life only to beget a good progeny, and he should be producing first class brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis. So going to the next verse, here Kashyapa Muni says that he glorifies Diti, and there is Prabhupada mentions that this glorification is actually, if someone offers such a glorification, he is a henpecked husband, or he is just saying it jokingly. So here Kashyapa Muni says that he cannot repay in this life or the later all the repay the wife or the diti that even in this life or the next life. So here Prabhupada mentions that one can experience the heavenly blessings of the sensual pleasure by the association of wife without fearing without fear of falling down, because this is sanctioned for the grahastha life. And one should be so here so because the wife helps husband in sensual pleasure, and at the same time in a way helps that he can advance in spiritual life, he should be in debt to the wife and should appreciate all the good qualities of the wives. But here Prabhupada says that it is still not possible to repay the debt to the wife. So going on to and then later on Kashyapa Muni, he says that nevertheless he says that I will satisfy your desire for begetting the children, but he says that you need to wait for few minutes or some time, because this time is inauspicious. So going to the next slide, here Kashyapa Muni warns Diti about the inauspiciousness of the time. And so next slide, Prabhu, if we can advance to the next slide. Okay, thank you. So so here Kashyapa Muni says that this time between the dusk and the night is very inauspicious, and during this time there are horrible looking ghosts wandering around, and Lord Shiva especially wanders with his ghost companions. So the Lord actually the ghost characters worship Lord Shiva to be eventually gradually guided to the path of self-realization. So in order for them to advance, he has to give a body, a human body. But he specifically awards them the body to the people who are just having the performing the sexual desire at the inappropriate times, especially in the evenings. So he places them in their homes who indulge in the sexual intercourse without any restrictions of time and regulations. So here Prabhupada also mentions about the the ghost material suicide and the spiritual suicide. The ghost especially has no body, because if once commits the suicide, he gets no body and he will be a ghost. And especially and also he mentions about the spiritual suicide. Mayavadis generally wants to merge with the Lord, and the spiritual suicide means the suicide of individual personality. So by offering by desiring one to merge with the Lord, one creates this a spiritual suicide. So going on to the next slide, starting with verse 25. So here Kashyapa Muni describes the features of Lord Shiva, the bodily features of Lord Shiva. Here it says, Lord Shiva's body is reddish and he is unstained, but he is covered with ashes. His hair is dusty from the whirlwind dust of burning crematorium. He is younger brother of your husband, and he sees with his three eyes. So here Prabhupada mentions that Lord Shiva is not a ordinary living entity. He is a very powerful living entity. Uh, he is he is almost equal to the Vishnu, but he is not at the same level as Vishnu. And he has three eyes. One of his eyes is like sun, another is like moon, and his third eye, which is between his eyebrows, is like fire. So he can generate fire from his third eye and can vanquish any powerful living being, including Brahma. So Kashyapa Muni especially mentions about his three eyes, that to warn Diti that so he is that the Lord Shiva is very powerful, and he gets very angry, and he can see with his eyes. He is not like, if you perform the sexual act, he cannot see it. So that's the reason why here Kashyapa Muni especially mentions about the three eyes of Lord Shiva, so that he will know what's going on, even though so we should not think that we can hide anything from Lord Shiva. And also he mentions that in the next verse, that Lord Shiva has no enemy. So he is no enemy. He is equal to all, and so he does not. In the previous verse, it was mentioned. Kashyapa Muni mentions that he is the brother-in-law. He is your brother-in-law. He is the younger brother of your husband. So in the next verse, he says that you should not think that even he is your brother-in-law, he will forgive you, or he will overlook your act, because he is equal to all, and he does not favor anyone, or he has no enemies. So here Kashyapa Muni also mentions that we worship the remnants of his footsteps, and we partake what was rejected by him. And Prabhupada mentions that this prasada eaten by Lord Shiva is Mahaprasad. The foodstuff offered to the Lord is prasad, but when it's taken by Lord Shiva, it is Mahaprasad. So we should not. So here he gives the qualities of the Lord Shiva, and also a warning to her that you should not take him for granted. And Prabhupada mentions that Lord Shiva is without any material desires, although he is the husband of Durga, who is the material energy personified, and he does not take he does not live with opulence. He lives in the crematorium with hardly any with the dust, and without opulent clothes. So he is a great Vaishnava. Say that Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. And he also asks advises his wife Durga to worship Vishnu, and also that worship of the devotee is greater than worshipping of the Lord. So going to the next slide, 27. So here Kashyapa Muni mentions that no one is equal or greater than Lord Shiva, and he teaches by his example of how to be detached from material enjoyment. He is above the three modes of material nature, and foolish people, they don't understand the nature, his nature. They only come to him for material benedictions, although the real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve Lord Krishna, and he is the controller of the material world, but he still does not partake in living opulently or with material benefits. So the foolish people don't understand this, and they simply come to Lord Shiva for all the material benedictions. And Prabhupada here mentions that we should not imitate like drinking poison. Lord Shiva's throat is blue because he drank the ocean of poison, and we should not imitate drinking poison or any other intoxication because it is done by Lord Shiva. And here Kashyapa Muni mentions that our body, which the material people are interested in, the bodily sense gratification, is actually eatable by dogs when at the end of the life. And so what is the reason for them to ornament it with material opulence? So text 29, again Kashyap Muni mentions that he is the controller of material energy, which causes the creation of the material world. So he is great, and therefore his devilish characteristics are simply imitation. So here Prabhupada mentions that one should therefore follow in his footsteps, that he is unattached to the matter and not intimate his uncommon activities like drinking poison. So going to the next slide from text 30. Here Diti, so after all this warning by Kashyapa Muni, Diti still is afflicted by the sexual desire. She pulls the cloth of her husband. So she pulls the cloth of her husband for her satisfaction. So here Prabhupada says that the Haribol Prabhu, Govincharam Prabhu, there is a background. Nice. Okay. So here Prabhupada mentions that the difference between a married line and a prostitute is the married wife is based on the sexual desire is based on rules and regulations, whereas the public prostitute, there is no rules and regulations or any timely considerations. So so here he says that Kashyapa Muni became a victim to his wife. Yeah. So that is the strong force of material energy. Kashyapa Muni was a learned scholar. He was a sage, but still he could not dissuade her. He had inclination to to engage with her, but so he could not control and falls prey to his wife's desire. So after so he finally agrees to beget the son, and he knows that Lord Shiva will not be happy, but still nevertheless he acts to satisfy his wife, and he offers his obeisances to the fate. So he leaves everything to the fate, and here Prabhupada mentions that Kashyapa Muni, he was not in a Krishna conscious. He was he was not a devotee, so he was not able to control his desire. Whereas Haridas Thakur was neither a Brahmana or nor born of a Brahmana family, but he was engaged in chanting of the Lord's name. He was a pure devotee of the Lord. So when a prostitute approached him, he could not only control the desire, but made her into a devotee. So that is the power of devotees, pure devotee of the Lord, who chants the name of the Lord. So here he compares between the Haridas Thakur and the Kashyapa Muni. So after performing the act, he purifies himself by taking the bath and chanting the Gayatri mantra. And the next slide, going to 33, here Diti is ashamed. He is ashamed of her act, and he goes near to her husband with her face lowered because of her faulty actions, and he starts speaking. So she's afraid. She knows what her fault is. She's afraid of Lord Shiva, that he might kill his his child or her embryo. So she prays that to her husband, "My dear Brahmana, kindly see that my embryo is not killed by Lord Shiva, Lord of all living entities, because of the great offense I have committed against him." So she is ashamed of herself, and she is also afraid that Lord Shiva will kill her pregnancy. Here Prabhupada mentions that Lord Shiva has two names, Rudra and Ashutosh. So he becomes angry very easily, but at the same time he is also satisfied very easily. He is Ashutosha, so can be quickly pacified. So her husband, being a devotee of Lord Shiva, she asks him to pacify Lord Shiva, so that he gets pacified, and she starts praying to the Lord Shiva from the next verse. So here so going so here that verse 35, she offers prayer to Lord Shiva. Says from the translation, "Let me offer my obeisances unto angry Lord Shiva, who is simultaneously the very ferocious great demigod and a fulfiller of all material desires. He is all auspicious and forgiving, but his anger can immediately move him to chastise." So here Prabhupada here beautifully translated the prayer of her in the purport. So I will just read through it. So she prayed, "The Lord can cause me to cry, but if he likes, he can also stop my crying, because he is Ashutosha. he is so great that if he likes, he can immediately destroy my pregnancy. But by his mercy, he can also fulfill my desire that my pregnancy not be spoiled. Because he is all auspicious, it is not difficult for him to excuse me from being punished. Although he is now ready to punish me because I have moved his great anger. He appears like a man, but he is Lord of all men. So this is very beautiful, prayer. The Prabhupada translates this prayer, and it's very beautifully. It's very beautiful. So
the time
so going on verse 36, here again she takes, because she knows that he's a brother-in-law, so she takes this help. She tries to take the help of her sister Sati so that she could request her husband to excuse her. And also she mentions that he is very merciful towards all the women, and he knows the defective nature of the woman. So she seeks the mercy of the Lord Shiva, and she says that even uncivilized hunters excuses them. So she is hopeful that Lord Shiva excuses her. So going on to the next slide, so starting from verse 38, here on the verse 37, Maitreya actually addresses Diti. He says, Maitreya Muni says, actually the Kashyapa Muni addresses Diti, but here the Maitreya Muni is saying, the great sage Kashyapa thus addressed his wife, who was trembling because of fear that her husband was offended. She understood that he had been dissuaded from his daily duties of offering evening prayers, yet she desired the welfare of her children in the world. So here, she was very afraid and fearful that she had disturbed her husband from her duties. But at the same time, she is desired that her children will be protected. So from the text 38, Kashyapa tells he says that whatever you did was all inauspicious. And he says that the mental condition and the time and the directions of her husband, and also negligence of to the demigods, everything was auspicious, and this is does not about so here in the purport, Prabhupada mentions that this is a example where a son of a great sage or a learned person can be a demon. So in previous ages, he said that only there would be only one or two demons, but in present age of Kali, most of them are demons. So the only help in this age of Kali is to take the shelter of the holy name, and this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought with his movement to help all the fallen conditioned souls of this age to advance in spiritual life. And then he lets he gives the prophecy that the two sons will be born of her will be demons, and they will kill the poor they torture the living entities, kill the living entities, torture the women, and enrage the great souls. And here in the purport of 40, Prabhupada mentions that where there are women and meat, there must be a liquor and sensual indulgence. So when these are prominent in society, by God's grace, one can expect a change in social order by Lord himself or by a bona fide devotee. So, and then because of that, because of all the disturbance created by these two demons, Kashyapa Muni mentions that the Lord especially comes, and because he's the well-wisher of all the living entities, he comes and he kills them just as a Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. And then later on, Diti starts after hearing the prophecy from her husband. She's kind of relieved, because she because her sons would be killed by the Lord himself, and she says that if because he is killed by the arms of the Lord, by seeing the arms of the Lord, they will they will attain liberation. And she says that Prabhupada mentions that this good fortune is not even achieved even by the great sages. So the next verse here, actually, sometimes because of the wrath of Brahmana curses and and they get killed. So she is relieved to see that they will not be killed by the Brahmanas because Brahmanas curses. So here in the verse 43, it is mentioned that whoever is condemned by a Brahmana is always fearful to other living entities, is not favored either by those who are already in hell or by those in the species in which he is born. So they are very much condemned. And Prabhupada mentions that in this dog, in this species of life, the dog is the most condemned one because he shows no sympathy to their own contemporaries. And going to verses 44, starting with 44, 45. So here Kashyapa Muni, after hearing, after seeing that his wife lamentation and the deliberation of her faultful act, and her unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Lord, he gives the and also her adoration of Lord Shiva and her husband, he gives the benediction that her grandson will be a devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcasted all over the world in equal proportion to that of the personality of the Godhead. So and his and he will and his character will be followed by saintly persons by practicing freedom from animosity. So here Prabhupada mentions that in conditioned state of life, everyone is envious of every living entity, but in liberated state of mind, there is absence of animosity. So Prahlad Maharaj was tortured by his father in many instances, but he actually did not ask for any benediction for himself. See, he just prayed that his father be liberated. So he never cursed, even though he was put into so many difficulties. And so there was no question of any animosity on his part. And then Kashyap Muni also mentions that everyone will be pleased with him because he is the Lord of the, he is the devotee of, pure devotee of Lord, and everyone will be pleased with him. So every living entity, in every living entity, the Lord resides as a super soul, and the super soul can direct from within to be friendly to a pure devotee of the life. So Prabhupada mentions that in many instances in history, even the ferocious animals became friendly to a pure devotee. So this is just because the Lord is in everyone's heart, and he can direct, and because the Lord is satisfied with the pure devotee of Lord, because he doesn't ask anything for himself. He just wants to serve him without any motivation or any material desires. So the Lord within from every living entity directs them to be friendly with pure devotee of Lord. And so going to the next slide, 47. I think we already discussed this. Okay, going to the slide, text in the same slide, but text 48. Here, Kashyap Muni says that the topmost devotee of love will have expanded intelligence and expanded influence and will be greatest of great souls. But due to mature devotional service, he will certainly be situated in transcendental ecstasy and will enter the spiritual sky after quitting his material body. So here he says that he will be a greatest of great souls, and he will quit his body and will finally attain the abode of Lord. Here Prabhupada mentions that there are 3 stages of transcendental development. Sthai Bhava, which is continually perfect lover of Godhead. The other one is Anubhava, where it is performed in a particular type of transcendental relationship with the Lord. And Mahabhava is where there is a personal pleasure potential energies of the Lord. So here Prahlad Maharaj is constantly in meditation of the Lord. So because of his constant meditation, he he will achieve the spiritual world after quitting his body. And Prabhupada says that this chanting, such meditation is still more conveniently performed in this age of Kali by chanting and hearing the holy names, and this is specially recommended in the age of Kali. So going to the last slide, with text 49, here Kashyapa Muni says that Prahlad Maharaj will be reservoir of all good qualities, and he is happy with others' happiness, and he is distressed with seeing the distress of other people. And he will be the destroyer of all the lamentation of all the universes, like the pleasant moon after the summer sun. So here Prabhupada mentions that from beginning from his childhood, Prahlad Maharaj had good qualities, and the pure devotee has all these good qualities, and the most important characteristics or a property or a quality of a devotee is that he is not lampata or licentious. That means he is not promiscuous to the sexual desire. And this is the quality that is very prominent in the pure devotee of the Lord. And also he is interested not on his deliverance or his liberation, but also for all the living entities, suffering living entities of this world. So that's why the pure devotees tries to invoke Krishna consciousness in all other living entities. And because of his pure devotee of the Lord, he can see Lord within himself, and also with his eyes. But not everyone can do that, and this vision of the Lord with his external eyes is not possible with the material eyes, and this is only for the very devotees who are elevated in Krishna consciousness. And devotees don't whimsically try to manufacture the forms. They only see the forms which are scripturally described, or which are the original forms of the Lord. It is not that you desire any form and you see the Lord in that form. So here Prabhupada mentions, when a devotee sees the Lord, he sees him in his most beautifully decorated form, accompanied by his constant companion, the goddess of fortune, who is eternally beautiful. So he sees the Lord with all his opulences. With all his opulences, he sees the Lord. And going to the last verse, so here so after hearing this from Lord Kashyapa Muni, and Maitreya says here, now this is Maitreya speaking, that Diti is very satisfied that her grandson will be a great devotee, and also her sons will be killed by Krishna. So she was pleased in her mind, being a daughter of Daksha, and being a wife of a great sage. She knows that the Lord is absolute, and there is no difference between the killing of the Lord and the protection given by the Lord. So people after going through so many austerities, they achieve the same destination as the destination achieved by the demons killed by the Lord. So hearing this, she was very much pleased, and she was relieved. So thus ends the 14th chapter and this presentation. And thank you so much for all the devotees for patiently bearing with me, and with everyone's permission, we can I think open for questions or comments. So Srivas Prabhu, so can we start with taking comments or questions?
Thank you, Sri Gopal Prabhu. That was a nice presentation. At this point, I don't have questions you can ask others.
Haribol Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
This is Das. Thank you very much, Prabhu. It was a very nice presentation, and you summarized the main points from each and every purport. It was very wonderfully presented. I don't have any questions as such, but a lot of points to deliberate upon from this chapter. valuable lessons, and so thank you for presenting it nicely.
Thank you, Sundaranand Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for the very nice class. As Sundar was saying, you nicely summarized all the wonderful points. This is loaded with so many things to remember and follow. I had a general question. So we heard that the wife gets the benefits when husband does spiritual practices. Is the reverse also there, or it's not there? I just had a general this thing.
Yeah, I think I don't. Yeah, we can. I don't
Actually,
have the answer.
for that, reverse of reverse is true.
Reverse of reverse.
Because the wife gets the 50% or whatever is the spiritual benefit of the husband gets the 50% of the karma, negative karma which is done by the wife.
Oh,
So what is that, Prabhu? Can you repeat that? It was.
So the wife gets the negative, or the husband gets the negative reactions of whatever the wife does.
Oh, negative reactions. Oh, I see.
But again, this we can open up this whole debate with the modern marriage, because with the modern marriage, not counting devotees, but with the modern marriage, there is no somehow set of uh, agreed conventions, like the husband is going to say protect his life for the rest of his life, and the wife is. So there are so many prerequisites for this to happen. So I don't understand if, for example, in any ways, it's a long topic. We can discuss it some other time. Uh, but yeah, that is the general principle here. I read somewhere in Prabhupada's book. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Rasma, go ahead.
thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Shri Gopal Prabhu. That's all I had. I didn't have any other question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you for the wonderful class. It was very inspiring. And actually, when I read the translation, it was a very heavy topic, but you presented it so nicely with all the principles. One particular line that struck me was how Srila Prabhupada was saying the perfect system of marriage is like boys are trained in brahmacharya and girls are trained in chastity. So I was thinking of Vaisheshika Prabhu and Nirkula Mataji, how they, are perfect embodiment of that particular principle, and how, we can see that's the standard that Srila Prabhupada is referring to in those verses, how wonderfully they're able to engage and be an inspiration for all of us. Especially one incident I remember when Prabhu came to our home for one of the Bhakti Ruksha programs. He was supposed to bring some the certificates for the students for completing the first course, and he left it at home. And then the moment we entered the home, and he just sat on the seat, and then he remembered. And then immediately Mataji understood. They didn't communicate, but she understood that he forgot. And then immediately, without being told or without being asked, she immediately said, "I'll go and get it." It's like from Burlingame to Milpitas was like 45 minutes drive, and she just arrived, and he just realized, and she was just immediately ready to go, and we had to convince her so much that you don't have to go, we can go and get it, and we were making other arrangements. But the point is, she was so surrendered and faithful, and just perfect servant in that sense, and so satisfied in doing that. She wasn't having second thoughts, if I should do or not. So that's what cultivation of chastity, how it brings stability when that mood is there. I was thinking about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Very nice realization. Yeah, it is very nice to see the personal examples, the purport when we relate the points that Prabhupada is saying to the, the personal experiences,
Yes.
and the effect that it has in the whole, community or the world. Just one couple, following the rules and regulations of, brahmacharya and chastity. How much change can it bring into the whole world? If it's few percent of those devotees in this, or the people in this world, if we can follow that, then it will bring a great change into the whole society. Thank you for bringing this point, Prabhu.
Thank you. You can go ahead with others. We are done with our family.
Okay. I think Govindat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Sri Gopal Prabhu, thank you very much for a nice presentation.
Hare Krishna.
It was a nice presentation, summarized many of the nice points. I don't have any question, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Sukeshwari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Very, very nice presentation, Prabhu. And
Thank
all, you really comprised so well and put it in points. I didn't have any specific question, Prabhu, but I was just thinking about, the difference between impersonalist and a devotee, how it is, what's the difference and how the difficult things get more easier for a devotee. But still, there's a long way to go. For a person like me. But then I was just thinking that it's such a nice point that, and I was also thinking about the point of Yamunacharya, about how nicely he describes in whatever parampara we are, if we are connected to Lord the right way, automatically it's just actually I just took that line out. If you don't mind, I was just going to read that.
Okay.
And he mentions about the sense pleasure. Sorry for what I think oh no, I have it. He was saying that since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and I have been enjoying the ever new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sense pleasure, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. So, it's amazing that, anything that is not related to Krishna doesn't give pure devotee pleasure. So, it's a very high stage to achieve. And but we are all, at least I feel that I take a long time, but at least we are on the way. Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, here Prabhupada mentions quotes one Bhagavad Gita verse, this is chapter 259, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Deina Rasavarajam Rasopyasya Param Drishtva Nivartante. Only by engaging in the, higher higher activities, we can restrict the sense enjoyment, and just being a pure devotee of the Lord, we can naturally control the other sense enjoyments.
Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Vedavit Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation and summary of points. There are many things to follow. Just I had a question. I wanted to understand that, in the verse 17, purport, Prabhupada mentions that the three perfections of liberation are religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification.
Yes.
Those are perfections of liberation. Like how sense gratification is perfection of liberation and economic development is perfection of liberation, I'm thinking. Religiosity is, I think I can understand, but economic development and sense gratification is perfection of liberation.
Okay, I think we can ask other devotees, but my understanding is that this, by having this like sense enjoyment, once by satisfied from one's own wife or something, we can concentrate on the spiritual aspect of it. If you don't try, you cannot control that. then it might lead to something, some other consequences of these acts. But if it is satisfied based on the scriptures, and then that will lead to the liberation eventually in the path of spiritual advancement. Same thing I think is for the I think the economic development. If for the people who are not really pure devotees, or you need some kind of economic to be placed in a better situation economically, so that they can concentrate their energy towards spiritual life. In that way they can be on the path to liberation. So that's what I understand. But devotees can please, we can check with Shivas Prabhu and other devotees to please expound on this.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with your points, but it won't stop. Like there is no never ending. Like for economic development and sense gratification, there is no limit, right?
So, nice points, nice question. Please understand that Kashyapa was trying to pacify and kind of praise his wife for um, for this particular section. He was just trying to praise his wife, and the perfection of liberation, or perfection of sense gratification, and perfection of um, economic development. For a householder, there is both that is needed, because the essence of a householder life is sense gratification. And if it is not there, then the household life actually becomes miserable. And for a householder to progress from sense gratification to having economic development and sense gratification, in this case, sense gratification is satisfying the desires of husband and wife, so that they can progressively go ahead. Not too much of sense gratification, not too little of it. So household life, essentially, there is some sense gratification. You can't negate it. Otherwise, there is no question of having a household, right? Because here you could see that even though they lived in the forest, Devati still had some desires for sense gratification. She wanted a child, and so that is still a sense gratification. That's a perfection of sense gratification. So the thing is, from the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective, sense gratification is it's not totally condemned, but as long as you are able to use that sense gratification in service of the Lord. So we can't completely negate it, but at the same time we can't completely give it to sense gratification.
Cool.
Makes
Thank
sense?
you, Prabhu. That
Yeah.
yeah.